All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Kent Curley from the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice. This is now the second video in our series. And as you know, the goal here is to get to know our faculty members as well as our staff members just by having a quick conversation with them and getting a chance to know them in terms of their teaching and their research and their service and their experience and anything else that they might want to share. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Professor Esteban Gomez. Right, Professor Gomez, welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Curdy. I appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me to have this interview with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Could you please tell us a bit about your education and your career background in criminal justice?
Certainly. My education is slightly, I guess, different than what the traditional criminologist or criminal justice major is. My bachelor's is actually in microbiology with a minor in chemistry. I do have a master's in bioscience management. And so it doesn't follow the traditional path, if you will, Dr. Curdy. But what I did was I also culminated that with my over 25 years of law enforcement experience. And the last part of it, my career was with the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Can you tell us about your experience there with the FBI?
Certainly, I would be glad to. Obviously, you know, there's some of it that's classified that I won't be talking about, but the unclassified part about it is, I will tell you right off, Dr. Curdy, anybody that can get into the FBI, it is a wonderful career. It was filled with a lot of emotion, yes, but the opportunity and the ability to help the American people was priceless to me. So being able to take my talents in the hard sciences field and apply them in the FBI was great. But we had a lot of our agents that were not hard scientists and they applied it the same way. So it was tremendous for the American people. I did enjoy it completely. If I were ever asked, and you've asked me now, I would do it all again. Yes, in a heartbeat. I would do it all again.
I can tell you that as we go into high schools and community colleges and we ask criminal justice students or people who are thinking about criminal justice, they frequently say that federal law enforcement is a key goal, usually with FBI being at the top of the list. So it's really great for our students to have someone who has that experience, who has lived that on our staff.
Right.
So once you retire from the FBI, what was your motivation in terms of wanting to teach full time?
Well, Dr. Curdy, after so many years of being in law enforcement, especially in the FBI, I had the opportunity to be able to learn a great deal from some very talented instructors within the FBI. Mm-hmm. It is something that we in the FBI look to say, well, yes, I've got that knowledge now, but it does the American people no good for me to keep that knowledge and to just squirrel it away, sir. So that's when I went ahead and decided I wanted to go into teaching, because when I joined the FBI, or when I joined law enforcement, because I started off first as a municipal police officer before I became an agent with the FBI, my goal was to serve and protect the people. And I was looking at my parents' generation and my generation. Well, now I'm going to pass the torch. And what better way to do that, sir, than to be able to tell the American people, I didn't just selfishly keep it to myself. I want to touch the future, and I want all of the future. I don't care if you're a judge, an attorney, probation, parole, detention officer, law enforcement, state, federal, whatever. I want you to be the best that you can be and learn from my mistakes, be able to enforce the laws, be able to serve and protect our citizens better than I did, and take care of my generation and your generation also. And that's why I wanted to teach, sir. And I applaud and thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to do so here at the University of Texas at Arlington. Tremendous institution.
Excellent, thank you. So you teach a variety of classes for our students, but three in particular that you are assigned most semesters are Introduction to Law Enforcement, Criminal Investigation, and Introduction to Forensics. Can you give us maybe just a quick overview for each of those classes?
Certainly, Dr. Curdy. The first two that you said, the Introduction to Law Enforcement and Introduction to or Criminal Investigations, it's a blend of going from the very beginning. So in other words, the introduction to the law enforcement, it provides a very broad sense, if you will, of what we're looking at in law enforcement, historically, traditions, laws, things of that nature. And then it progresses into the criminal investigation, which is a specialty, and that's another course that I teach and some of my other colleagues teach also. What we do there is we go ahead and let the students know, hey, yes, you've got all the big stuff, the generalized stuff. Now we're going to teach you some specialized stuff, such as criminal investigations. So it's a little more stepwise, if you will, going up. And then it culminates into one of my other classes that I teach, which is the Introduction to Forensics. Within a criminal investigation, forensics is by far one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that you can bring into a courtroom, because it's evidence that cannot be changed. If it's a physical piece of evidence, you cannot really change the outcome of it. Whereas if you have testimony from somebody, they could change their story, but physical evidence doesn't. And being able to observe it, recognize it, and then be able to collect it, and then process it, and then present it to court properly, oh my gosh, Dr. Curdy, that is the kind of justice that we're looking for. Because in the criminal justice system, sir, we want to make sure that we are prosecuting the right individual. And so from the very beginning of introduction to law enforcement, all the way through forensics, we've got to make sure that we are actually prosecuting the right person that needs to be prosecuted.
Absolutely. All right, now this final topic will be a bit more challenging for us all. It could be argued that police officers are scrutinized now more than ever. With the widespread availability of mobile devices and social media, every citizen can be an amateur news reporter. Officers across the nation have also been guilty of brutality and abuse of power, and a fractured relationship with minority, racial, and ethnic groups in some cities has become even worse. So for you, Professor Gomez, two questions. One, why is policing still a great profession for our students? And then two, how should they approach the current increased scrutiny of police?
Well, those are good, very good questions, Dr. Curdy. And I would start off by saying the first one, excuse me, why is policing still a great profession? It's always been a great profession. And what makes that profession so great are the people that make up those agencies. Law enforcement constantly evolves, and we must evolve. If we do not evolve, we are going to stay stuck in a history that has some pretty detrimental components to it. So it's still evolving, and it will continue to evolve. But at the same time, Dr. Curdy, it is an honorable profession. Yes, right now we are seeing through the media and other inputs that we have a slightly skewed version of what people are thinking of law enforcement. But I will tell you this, Dr. Curdy, there's over 800,000 law enforcement people, sworn law enforcement officers and agents in the United States right now. So what we're seeing is a small percentage that are, yes, undeniably violating the laws. But that doesn't say that every one of them is. And what we are looking at is the vast majority of officers, law enforcement officers, are doing the right thing. And so it is still a great profession because it's still evolving. It allows us to change with the times, to recognize what we need to recognize, and to be able to enforce the laws legally and appropriately. So I guess this ties into your second question, Dr. Curdy. Why is there a difference, or how should we approach this current scrutiny? When I teach, Dr. Curdy, I teach it this way. Part of ethics is one of the things that says doing the right thing when no one is watching. And that is how every officer should approach it. When the officer is sworn in, the officer swears in and takes an oath. The oath to protect, to serve, and they are dedicated to that. Now, it doesn't say anywhere in that oath to do things askewed from that. That oath is very important to law enforcement officers. And so right now, everybody that goes into law enforcement should understand the public has a right to know things, yes, The public has a right to understand what's going on, yes. But the public also needs to know that we are evolving, that we are changing, that we are making things better for the public. Being a law enforcement officer right now is very important, but being the best officer is even more important because the public needs that. The public wants to have that understanding that every officer there is dedicated to preserve, to support, to assist, and to protect. And so right now, if they are out there scrutinizing, fine. Understand that the law enforcement component is going to, we don't tolerate that, sir. We don't tolerate that at all. If somebody breaks the law, I don't care if they're law enforcement or not. If we have the evidence to support a conviction, we will have a conviction. And I don't care who they are. That's what makes law enforcement important. And so how should you approach it in the scrutiny of it right now? Welcome it. As long as it doesn't harm them. I've been in cases or in scenes where I've had individuals come up with cell phones saying, we want to take pictures of that. And I tell them, it is your right, but please don't interfere with what I need to do. And please, I have to place you in a place where you can be protected because they need to be protected just as well as everybody else, even the subject that I'm addressing. So the scrutiny shouldn't be something that they should appear looking at, or the students should look at it and say, it's a black eye. There's always going to be that, sir. Always be that.
Excellent. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Professor Gomez, for spending about 10 minutes with us today. Students, if you are already in our program here at UTA and CRCJ, and you have not already taken a class with Professor Gomez, I would encourage you to do so. Potential students, if you're interested in UTA, please see our website at uta.edu/criminology. Look me up, Dr. Curley. Look up any of our advisors. We'd be happy to share with you information. Please feel free to reach out to Professor Gomez as well. On our website, you can find all of the email addresses for all of our faculty members, staff members, and advisors. And so we really would welcome you to learn more about our program. So thanks very much. And until the next one, any final comments, Professor Gomez?
Well, one last final comment, if you will allow me, Dr. Curry. One of the things that's the tenet that we do in law enforcement is we know Lady Justice. Lady Justice has been portrayed as a variety of things, but the most common thing that I want everybody to know is that Lady Justice is blind. She is blindfolded. She does not care about race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, or any of that. She will look at the evidence. She is the one that's going to weigh out that evidence. And that's why she has scales in one set of hands. In the other hand, she has a weapon, yes. So law enforcement has to do that. Every law enforcement officer has to do that. And that's what we do at UTA. We teach that. Enforce the law without any bias, but enforce the law appropriately in authorized ways. Thank you, Dr. Curry.
Excellent. Thank you. So until next time, go Mavs.
Yes.